Hi guys, long time no see. Welcome back to another video. Today I have a E93 BMW 2007 with a 2-liter I engine. Right, this engine obviously produced an engine malfunction fault on it, and we had a bit of an issue. Right, so it's showing up on the code reader as a crank sensor. Now I've bought a crank sensor from the dealers. Right, this is what came out of it. It's original BMW as well. And if you look at the plug, it's on this side, the locking plug basically. I don't know if you can notice there. Right, this part is on this side basically. It's on the right hand side. Now if you look at this one, it's different. It's the other way. So I can get around that. There's normally a little plastic piece which they use. I just unclipped this. I can turn it the other way around and, well, turn the plug the other way around, put this in. As for the functions, they look exactly the same. If I turn this the other way, right, the locks where the actual plug locks onto is exactly the same. So anyway, you can't put the plug on wrong anyway, right? But it's different. That's what they said they replaced it to. Initially when I tried to use the harness, it wouldn't go over this, so I've had to put this the other way around basically, so the plug is free. In order to maneuver it, it actually goes in the back of the plug right about there. Right, so this, I've been testing it out. It's got the orange wire. I don't know if you guys can see very well. The orange wire, which is on the left, I believe, right? Which should be on the crank sensor reference. Let me get a light, see if I can actually pinpoint these out. 1 second, guys. Right. Let's see if I can read this. I don't have my glasses with me, but I believe is pin 1. Yeah, pin 1 is for the orange wire, right, which is for the actual 12-watt reference. And then you have the middle wire, which is pin 2, which is the ground. And then you have the yellow wire, which the pin is stuck into. That would be the 5-watt signal reference. Right, now I've checked, all of that is fine. I'm getting reference through, the plug's fine. Right, the only thing I've realized in these that if I was to check, the ohmage in this, there's no ohmage. You're only going to get from number 1 and ground, you're going to get continuity out of it, right? That's the faulty one, right? Out of the signal even, there's no ohmage, nothing coming out of it, right? This one that I bought from the dealers, number 1, which is the actual 12-watt reference and the ground, this has no continuity, right? So unless there was, so there is something different. Now I have bought one off eBay, right, which is this one, exactly identical to the genuine one, and unfortunately that's got a continuity coming out of 1 and 2 as well, right? So which is obviously 12-watt reference and the actual ground. Now there's no other way of checking these as far as I know. I've plugged it into the actual into the plug and tried getting right once the signal reference. And what's happening is when you put a piece of metal in front of it, it's not sensing nothing either, right? So unless these start sensing when the actual engine is running or so, right, I'm not 100% sure. I don't have a manual, so I'm not gonna tell people that no, this is how it is, right? I'm not sure. I haven't put the sensor in, so I don't know how it's running, right? I'm gonna do that and get back to you guys, but just for a quick video, I'm gonna see if I can grab the camera on here and see what we can get out of this, the Dove one. So if I'm using continuity, right, put this on continuity and put my prong on the actual 12 watt reference and the ground, I should be getting, it's showing roughly about just around the 12, right? Doing the same. With this I'm getting exactly the same, right? So I put the prong back on there and start connecting these. So these basically both are the same. This one here, if I'm doing the same thing, alright, yeah, if I'm doing the same thing with this one here, it's giving me nothing. So this is, there's no continuity in this. This is the original dealer one, right? These are the original dealer ones as well, but from the way it looks, they're probably not supposed to have continuity. So, but sorry guys, the camera had earlier on turned off. So what we got here is we got basically the meter was on continuity. Alright, we got, these are the two faulty ones, which are the pin 1 and pin number 2, which I believe is the 12 watt reference and the actual ground. There's continuity up to about 1200 on this one and roughly around the 1200 on that one basically. So these both are faulty, right? The good one, I've obviously put that in. You shouldn't get any continuity in these as far as we've learned today. From these, just to do a basic check with the ohm meter. There's no ohmage or resistant or anything in these. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to show you a little test on the actual car, that it's not even picking up any it's not even picking up anything basically from the actual crank sensor. When you put a piece of metal in front of it, it normally should, on normal cars, it should basically pick up and drop down to zero basically, whether it's the voltage you're checking, whether it's the ohmage you're checking. But on this, nothing like that, right? The genuine sensor, obviously we're gonna smack it in a bit basically and see what it does. That doesn't have no continuity, no resistance or ohmage, nothing, right? And it doesn't sense the actual metal. So every car is different, right? Every car is totally different basically. We can look at cars from the States, they might have different, these might run on, I don't know, they might have two grounds, one separate. On the crank sensors, however, they are different basically. On the crank sensors, you are getting the actual, once you get the 5 volts reference, they do go down to zero. So we know that that's picking up the TDC. Okay guys, so what we have is, we've put an earth, we got the signal wire there, which is a yellow, there's a pin sticking at the back of it, and I'm gonna get one of these guys to hold it. I've got roughly about 4.7, 4.8 volts basically, around the 5 volts mark. Right now, if you look at all of that, right, and see if the voltage changes, right, when I touch this sensor, it doesn't. It's not doing absolutely nothing. Right, so that little movement is just basically, I think he's holding it. So, but there's not, you should drop down to 0, but it's not. But I'm gonna drop this in and let's see what it actually does. Right, is the 125 pound going to waste, or are these supposed to be open? Well, having continuity. These both, I mean, that's the only difference from the genuine one I've actually bought. I mean, these are genuine as well, but the only thing I found in these is they have continuity basically, right? And I've shown it earlier on, right? So I'm going to dump this in, right? And let's see how we can get around this basically. I have took a little plate off from underneath. I'm trying not to open the inlet up, right? And I'm going to push it in properly. I've modified and cut this short, Allen key. We've got a very small ratchet which I've cut short. The handle short a little from the back, right? So it's better than ripping all of this lot up, right? So I'll be back in a sec. Yeah, also guys, if you notice, BMW not giving me any new little Allen key or a ring. I've just noticed basically, so I've got to take one off the old one and shove it on here. So I'll see you guys back in a sec. Okay guys, I've altered a bit of the wiring plug. What I've done is, this thing obviously beats pointing the other way, so you make sure this dot that you see here, this little dot on the thing, this L shape goes. Like if I leave my hands, you'll probably see that's how it should go. So when I put it back on the other side, that dot's going to be facing the gearbox basically. If you can see the sensor in there, I'm not sure how much of a good, if you can actually see, my eye is bad, but I think I caught it there. Right, if you see the sensor there, I pushed it in from the bottom. I've put a nut on there. And just make sure that this dot is going to go into the other side basically. This is the one obviously they updated to. Alright, so when we go to put this in, this dot's going to be facing away. It's going to be facing towards the gearbox now. So it's going to go something like that basically. Twisted the other way around. The dot facing the gearbox basically. So as long as you put this L-shaped clip on like that, all I've done is just turned it around and done that. Otherwise the wiring is short. Right guys, so while I'm underneath doing some fittings, might as well show you guys what I've actually took off. Took this little plate off. And on the chassis here, right on the passenger side, the crank sensor goes right on the side of this, just underneath the starter, where the light ends, right? So I just about managed to get my hand through that hole there. So I've just been doing a lot of fishing, right? So that's done basically. The sensors in, all clipped up. Just gotta do a bit of the auxiliary at the top, and then we'll give it a test, see if it actually fires up. Right guys, everything's been put back together from the top. So moment of truth. Let's see what this sensor is going to do. Alright, so if we bang the key in, press the clutch in, go. There you go. Malfunction lights gone off. The engine management lights off. Right. Engine's curling up nicely. I've given it a quick service while I was there. Other than that, as I said, main lights are all off. There normally be the malfunction light here, and the engine management lights normally about there. Right now, theoretically, obviously every car is different. I've had a couple of looks at some of the videos on YouTube. In the States, I think they work out differently. The harnesses are probably differently as being a left-hand drive. So guys, don't get confused. Basically, if I plug my code reader in there, it's only a cheap little thing, right? Click enter. Right, it's saying 0 codes found. So basically we're all good. I had it running earlier for about 5 minutes, let it get off the code, but as you can see, the engine management light comes on, goes off, no malfunction light on at the bottom. Alright. The malfunction light, which is half colored and half empty, basically means that the engine is in a limp mode. It's got a power loss. Basically in this situation is just running off the cam sensors. A lot of cars, basically the Japs, mostly a lot of the time when the crank sensor goes, that's it. If you're on the motorway somewhere, get a tow truck. There's good and bad in all of these, but there's obviously complications. At least you'll know it's a crank sensor. With these, they run off the TDC, off the cam sensors, basically, by the looks of it, right? Because even if the crank sensor is unplugged, it'll still start, but it'll take a bit of time starting. So when you have a failure of a crank sensor, what normally happens is, because there's no reading from the crank sensor, it's relying on the cam sensors, and it'll start up basically. But that doesn't mean that you'll get full power, right? As I said earlier, the malfunction light which normally comes on, it's a power loss. All is showing that the engine's in limp mode. You can't get full power out of it until you sort it out, basically. But you basically, what you do is get to your destination, turn it off. If a lot of people keep driving the car as it was with the crank sensor gone, don't, because all you're going to do is you're putting a load on the cam sensors. They will go basically, then it wouldn't start totally because it's got no TDC to read. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I've had a couple of looks at some videos. As I said, every car is different, right? On this, as you can see, there was no ohms reading out of the crank sensor. It was just continuity, right? On the old ones, when it shouldn't have been there, basically, I counted out which plugs they were, basically what numbers they were off the plug. Basically it was the 12 volt reference wire and the ground. Basically that's how you can check your continuity. I put the spanner in front of it with the 5 volt reference. It didn't pull nothing. Now if you're relying on some of the YouTube videos, you'd probably, you know, be lost basically. So do your little own homework, make sure you diagnose it properly and check it out, right? Because a lot of people you would go to, they will say, yes, it might be this, it might be that, right? You'll be changing your oil pressure sensors, maybe even your VANIS system, right? And it might not be that basically. So just, as I said, I got a cheap code reader worth about 10 quid. As long as you know how to, I've got one of these. This is probably one of the cheapest multimeters you can buy in the market, right? But they all do the same job. All you do is just put it on continuity, do the test, and you know where you stand if the sensor's faulty or not, as I done with a couple of these, right? They didn't really give me a seal with the OEM one that I've actually put in there, so I took it off one of these ones and just stuck it on there. Going back some time, they used to give you the actual bolt with it as well, but things are not the same by the looks of it. But anyway guys, that's about it. right? I don't think I've missed out anything, right? Do watch the complete video, right? Because a lot of people just make little, you know, you can make one video, oh, how to test this, and then, oh, how to test the crank sensor, how to test the wiring. No, I'm giving you the full lot, basically how I got into it, how I took it out, without taking the inlet manifold off. It's a 2 liter I. I'm sure it's the same on the 92s, and the same on maybe the 91s and the E90s as well. This is the E93 convertible. So God bless, and I'll see you till next time.